It can be really tough as a business owner doing it. You can feel quite isolated and on your own and feel like you have a whole lot of support and responsibilities and people to look after, but you need to look after yourself first before you can look after other people, and you owe it to yourself.
Welcome to the Business Behind Your Business, conversations to help your business grow and thrive. Hi, I'm Paul Sweeney, founder of Pretium Solutions, chartered accountants and certified business advisors, hosting the Business Behind Your Business. Welcome back to the Business Behind Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and I'm excited today because we're going to be dealing with an issue or addressing an issue that's become more and more, common and more accepted to be talking about in business circles. And that's this whole idea of, depression and anxiety and mental illness for small and medium business owners. We've gone through a lot in the past 2 years. We've had droughts, we've had bushfires, we've had floods, and now we've had 2 years of COVID pandemic, and we're currently going through another round of floods and incidents. So small business owners have really been bearing it from all angles at the moment. And I guess the question is, where do you turn at this time? What should you be doing? Who do you ask for help? And I thought, well, the best person that I know to talk to about this is Michael Van Dyke from Black Dog Institute. Michael, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business podcast.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Michael. Now, you've been involved with Black Dog Institute for 7 years, which is a long time. So you should know very well what's going on at the Institute and how you can help small business owners and where they can find some help. Maybe before we actually look at the programs, what is the Black Dog Institute and how did it come about? Because it's quite an interesting story.
Yeah, exactly. So as you said, I've been at Black Dog for 7 years. The Black Dog Institute has been operating as it stands maybe for the last 15 to 20 odd years. It was originally set up by Professor Gordon Parker with the mood disorders unit on the hospital campus. But the primary function of the Black Dog Institute is to do a lot of research into mental health. So we're looking at what the issues are out there: suicide prevention, anxiety, depression, workplace mental health. That's obviously a big one. So we do a lot of research into that, and then we translate those programs, that research, into our programs that we offer. So we have workplace programs where we go in and train up managers and staff, executives as well. But we also do more beyond the workplace. We train up health professionals, so GPs, we get them upskilled. So if they have patients coming to see them that might be exhibiting signs of depression or anxiety or another mental illness, that they know how to identify those illnesses and then what steps to do and what resources are available. We also have a clinic, so we see patients at Black Dog Institute, and we run a lot of trials. We're doing novel treatment trials, so we do electromagnetic therapy. There's even ketamine trials recently, which is something new that's been talked about to treat depression. But a lot of it is around raising awareness, breaking down the stigma to do with mental health. So there is still, I work at the Black Dog Institute, so I feel like I'm in a little bit of a bubble somewhat, and I feel like everyone's talking about mental health. But when you go out into the world, there is still a lot of stigma around other people, but self-stigma as well, and people who might be suffering but unwilling to admit or recognize what's going on. So we want to raise that awareness. And so, we equip people with the tools to be able to help themselves and help other people.
Because certainly, I think you mentioned Black Dog Institute's been going for 15 years, and I know personally, I hadn't heard of the Institute for probably, or maybe going back 7 or 8 years now. It's something that's changing in how we approach it and how accepting we are. Because I know that the first time I ever had a conversation with a client who was suffering from depression and I guess suicidal at the time, but I was no way prepared to have that conversation, advising a business owner on what to do when they're encountering such a depressed state. And it's still something that I think a lot of us professionals really don't have any training in, or not just, I guess, not training in how to actually help people with it, but how to actually identify and what are the next steps. So what the Black Dog Institute is doing is absolutely critical, and the workshops are great. But I have to say, Black Dog is a bit of a strange name. Is there a story behind the name?
There is a story, actually. It is a little bit contentious, but the origin of the Black Dog Institute and the name comes from Winston Churchill, who is quite a famous, I guess, ex-prime minister of the United Kingdom, who suffered from depression himself, and he referred to it as a black dog that would follow him around. And so when he was suffering from bouts of depression, that was sort of the imagery that he used, that black dog. And it's quite a powerful image, I think, and it really is a good way of explaining how people with depression feel and how it affects them. Obviously, we've expanded beyond depression. We look into suicide prevention and anxiety and other mental illnesses. But yeah, that's the origins. So that's where that name has come from.
And I think just in telling that story, that highlights to me that it's not something that happens to people who are weak or who don't have any experience. Because Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of the UK during World War II, was well known for his abilities and his leadership, yet he had these struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a real strength for people to recognize if they are struggling from mental illness and to be vulnerable and to ask for help. I think that's a real strong sign of strength. And the statistics don't lie, really. It's in Australia, across the course of a lifetime, 45% of people will suffer some form of mental illness. And if you look across the period of a year, if we look in the workplace, 1 in 6 workers will be suffering from a mental illness in that year. So those numbers are really high, and it really shows that mental illness doesn't discriminate, and it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that there's something wrong and different with you. It's just there's a lot of things and a lot of factors that contribute to mental illness, and no one's really immune to it. And there are things you can do around building your own resilience to strengthen that. And the way we talk about mental health these days is to, I guess, look at it in the same terms of physical health, and it's something to be looked after and nurtured. And if you do get an injury, you go see a doctor and get that fixed. And it's the same for mental health. If you are struggling, what we would recommend is going and seeking help, getting that challenge fixed.
So I guess we're a lot more aware of it. And look, 1 in 6 employees, so that's a lot. So if we look at, that means that pretty much every small business is going to have some employee affected by it at some stage. So how do we identify, like as a business owner looking after a team, how do I identify when there's going to be an issue and what should I do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important question. And one of the other statistics that we have is that 50% of managers don't believe anyone in their team is suffering from a mental illness. So you can see how those statistics don't really marry up. But I guess one of the main things we talk about, and it's quite simple, but it is something to consider, is building those relationships with your staff, getting to know them, getting to understand who they are, having those conversations so that when things change and something might happen, you might notice a change in that person, then you can start to see if that's out of character, whether that might be an indication that they're suffering from a mental illness. It might not be. It could be, they're having troubles at home, or their family members gone overseas or something like that. But generally, building those relationships is sort of the foundation to then being able to help people and identify when they might be.
And relationships a little bit harder in this, I guess, remote working environment that's been forced upon a lot of businesses, where we're, I guess, disengaged with our team members, our employees. So how do we build those relationships, or how do we monitor those relationships?
Absolutely. When we were in the office or, meeting people face to face in the workplace, you could have a lot more of those incidental catch-ups, chatting over the water cooler, popping by someone's desk and seeing how they're going, where those opportunities aren't there so much if people are working remotely and working from home. So I think a really important thing is to structure those catch-ups and to have a bit more structure around them. It doesn't need to be a scary meeting where you're worried you're getting called into someone's office or scheduling a meeting, but just to schedule informal catch-ups with your team members, with your co-workers. It is really important to have that connection, and I think it can be easy to let that slide, especially if you are busy, especially if you're a small business owner with a lot of responsibilities, business responsibilities. It can be hard to make the time, but people are a big investment, and it pays to put the time aside to do that and to have those conversations. So definitely advocate for having a more structured approach, even if it's just an informal catch-up.
And so, in terms of where do you start with this structured approach or things to look at it? So, do you have some resources that are available for people to, I guess, at least learn what they should be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that's a segue into the programs that we have on offer. So I could talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that, Matt,
that'd be great.
if you would. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our chat, we run a number of workplace education programs, and that's delivered for all sort of employees of a workplace, from the leaders and the directors through to managers and supervisors through to general staff. And those workshops are delivered by our psychologists. So we have highly experienced organizational workplace psychologists that deliver these training programs, which is really a fantastic resource to have access to them. But they'll talk you through, I guess, the processes of how to structure things in the workplace to improve the mental health of the workplace. So our workshop Managing for Team Wellbeing, that is looking at what your sort of responsibilities are if you are a supervisor, if you do have staff under you that you're looking after, what changes in behavior to look out for. So I guess if we're looking at these days with the post-COVID world, if it's still remote working, it's whether people are still engaging in team meetings, whether they have their camera on or camera off. Maybe someone used to, be involved, chat a lot, have their camera on, and like to be involved in those meetings online. Maybe now that they're off, they don't contribute. You don't hear anything from them. That could be an indication that they're struggling and they're withdrawing from the workplace. But there's a whole range of changes in behavior that we talk about and that our psychologists run through. And then from that point, it's how to have that conversation. So we train people in the workshops on how to have those conversations, and we do some role-playing activities, which is everyone's favorite, but everyone's always a little bit nervous before we do that. But once they've done that, they find that very valuable. And there is a lot of concern from people that they're worried about saying the wrong thing, or they don't think it's in their business to get up in people's personal business. But it really is, if you're concerned about something, really important to let them know that you're there for them and to see what support you can provide. And one of those things, I guess, when having those conversations is dealing with people's responses. A lot of the time people will just say, "Oh, I'm fine." That's the default reaction a lot of the time. But when you raise awareness with someone, and when you say, look, I've noticed these things, these changes in behavior, I'm a little bit worried about you. Is there anything, I can do, or anything that you'd like to talk about? When you have those conversations with that person, even if the first time they might say they're fine and leave it at that, they now know that they've got a manager or a supervisor that cares about them and understands mental health, and maybe in the future will be more open to going and talking to them. And then it brings up questions around looking at a situation from a health perspective as opposed to a performance engagement perspective. And so being able to have those conversations means that you can tackle this challenge in an appropriate way, instead of looking at it from a disciplinary action, especially if someone's taking a lot of time off from work or turning up late. It's, not looking at the worst case scenario, but trying to understand what might be going on with them first and helping them out. So we run through that. We also talk about what legal responsibilities employers have. So that one is a really important thing, and a lot of people are interested in that. But we also make the distinction that it's not an employer's job to be a psychologist or a counselor. That's not their responsibility. So we talk about how they can support them, but also where to direct them if there is a bigger issue.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the fears of business owners, is that once they go down that track, that they're not equipped and that they have to solve the problem. That's not what the business owner is there to do. They're not there to solve the problem, but I think they're there to, I guess, support the employee and
Absolutely.
and possibly steer them in the direction of where to get the right kind of help, or where they should start looking for help.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important to show that you do care and that you're there to support them. And something that some managers and some people are worried about is opening up a can of worms as well. We've sort of heard that excuse for not sort of looking into your team's mental health, but I guess the effects and the costs of not doing anything about it are far greater than providing support for someone. I think I was going to say, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but we are recording this. But, I think it cost the Australian economy about $40 billion a year, mental ill health. So it's a significant chunk of change as to how much it costs in terms of productivity, in terms of absenteeism, in terms of presenteeism as well, people being at work but not being fully productive and not being fully engaged with their role. So it's in everyone's best interest to look after staff's mental health.
Yeah, and I think, look, we in the past we used to say, well, if somebody's not engaged, they're not doing their job, and it was often used as a performance measure or performance review measure that, sort out your own problems and then come to work fully engaged. But I think we've got to look beyond that and actually look at, well, there is actually a real issue. It is a real problem. How do we support them?
Absolutely. And again, with COVID, the line between home life and work life is really blurred now, and it's really hard to separate the two, especially if you're working in the same space that you're living in. Maybe you have children that you're looking after as well. Like, the two are connected, and it's pretty impossible if you're having a bad time at work, that can affect your home life and vice versa. I don't know anyone, myself included, who can separate those two. I think it takes a very disciplined person to be able to do that.
Yeah, and do you think like that's gotten worse since we've been in lockdowns and working remotely? Because I think for a lot of people, once they left work for the day, they left work at work and moved home. But like you were saying, you don't have that distinction anymore between where work ends and where home starts.
Yeah, I mean, I think my personal opinion is that physical barrier, geographically moving to a different location, is kind of a mental switch where you're not surrounded by things that remind you of work. You've left the workplace, you've left your office and your computer behind. You don't have any of those visual cues to remind you of a project that's running behind or a deadline that you've missed or something. But when you're working at home, if you see your computer sitting there in the corner, then you might have those thoughts and think of that thing, or you might be tempted to jump on your computer late at night to fire off some emails or something like that. The temptation is a lot easier to sort of blur those lines. So it probably has, I'd imagine, gotten worse with.
So look, we've talked about managers and business owners having a responsibility to look after their team. Mm-hmm. Has the awareness of your colleagues, like working with people, has that improved, or is that still, I guess, an issue where people are afraid to look out for their fellow colleagues?
Do you mean specifically within my work environment?
No. I guess in general. Have you observed anything there, or has there been any research done on that?
I mean, with COVID, and the Black Dog Institute has been doing a lot of research on the effects of COVID on mental health, and we're very thorough with the research, so it's still being developed and assessed. But I would imagine, anecdotally from my experience dealing with a lot of workplaces, so the training that we've been offering, we've delivered that to over 25,000 people now. So I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different workplaces, and it's really positive and encouraging to hear the stories coming from people around the changes in culture in the workplace, the awareness. I think one of the silver linings of COVID is that people are more open to talking about mental health. I think that conversation is more open in the public sphere now. So I think we've got to that level where awareness is out there and stigma is being reduced. And then really, I guess it's getting to that point of taking effective action now. And that's that next step of doing training programs, upskilling yourself, understanding how you can support either your team or yourself, looking at those tangible things that can make a difference. Because as great as awareness is, it's not the cure.
Mm-hmm. And how's the government been responding to this? Have they been supportive of organisations like Black Dog?
Absolutely. So the program that I look after and manage, that is completely funded by the New South Wales government. And we started with just a 1-year period delivering these programs, but they were extremely well received and there was a lot of demand for them. So the New South Wales government has continued to fund that up until today. So we're still running these programs, but we've been delivering them free of charge thanks to that funding since the end of 2018. So I think there is a real that's been identified as mental health has been identified as something that is a priority and important to the New South Wales government. And that was one of the things when COVID first started happening. The New South Wales had three key responses to that, which was around obviously physical support and physical safety. The second one was around financial support, but the third priority was mental health. So it was great to see mental health right up there amongst those other key things as well.
Mm. So there are the programs are being run by Black Dog, funded by the New South Wales government. I think that just removes another barrier for business owners, because one of the barriers to business owners actually doing things is the cost. So if these programs are funded, they're available, provide you an opportunity to invest in your team.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And outside of this funding, we offer these programs, but there is a fee for them. So the New South Wales government has funded it. Is really great. So I know that there can be a bit of a temptation to look at things that are free and undervalue them and think, oh, it's free, like it's whatever, I'll do that at some point, and then not really pick it up. But I would really encourage people to make the most of this opportunity, because you never know what happens with government and how much longer the funding is there for. But it's fantastic that they've continued to do it this far. And yeah, for something that we ordinarily charge workplaces for, it's great that we can offer it for free. And one of the sort of key groups that the New South Wales identified was small businesses. Financial, the cost of training programs is a burden for a lot of small businesses that just don't have that income or that time to be able to spend on these kinds of programs. So yeah, it's great that we can provide that free of charge.
Yeah, and look, and even if we did ignore the fact that they're being offered for free at the moment, it is an investment in your employees, in your team, and it's, I think that certainly the value you get out of partaking in these programs and the knowledge you bring back to your business far exceeds what the fee would be. So
yeah, absolutely. It is, that is how we like to look at it, and it is an investment, and there is a good rate of return. There's a few different figures depending on which studies you look at around rate of returns on investing in mental health in the workplace, but it ranges from for every dollar spent to $3 return up to, there's been some studies that say $10 for every dollar spent. So it is an investment. If you have a happy, healthy, productive workforce, then that's great for business.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what a lot of small business owners are looking to. But I think we need to look beyond the money, beyond the dollar, and look at the value of what we're creating. Because a lot of times, small business, the value is in your team, is in your people.
Yes.
So we really need to invest, go that extra step and invest in them. So
Absolutely.
So how do we get started with these programs, Michael?
So it's available to register to receive the training programs through the New South Wales government website. So just newsouthwales.gov.au. And then on their main page, there should be a tile that says mentally healthy workplaces. And if you click on that, that'll have all the information that will take you through to register you to receive that training. So there's no obligation as well. You can sign up there, select which programs you're interested in. And then once you've done that, someone from Black Dog, maybe it'll even be me, will reach out to you and talk you through what programs are available and what works best. We have a few different modalities. So obviously with COVID, we've been doing a lot more online delivery of the training programs, but we are starting to do face-to-face again. And I think a lot of people are looking for that. There's still a little bit of a juggling act with COVID out and about, and people having to reschedule and things like that. But yeah, we do have those workshops, and then we have online modules as well. So we know, we talked about money being a barrier to doing the training, but also time is a barrier. And, if you're running a small business, getting the people to take time off to do some training can be difficult. So we do have online modules, which is the same content as the workshops, but it's something that you can log on to an online portal and do the training at your own pace.
Yeah, because I know, look, we've been talking about the New South Wales government because we're both based in New South Wales in Australia, but I know that the resources are available or online, so that means they're accessible by anybody in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. All our programs are available to be delivered anywhere in Australia. We've delivered all over. We have facilitators based in all the states. And even if we don't have facilitators there, we can fly to you. But yeah, we also have a wide range of online resources, especially on the Black Dog Institute website. We have mood charts, we have fact sheets, we have self-tests, we have a number of apps, mood monitoring apps, even meditation apps. So there are a whole lot of supports available on the Black Dog website. So if you're looking to sort of dip your toe in the water, then I'd recommend looking at the Black Dog website first and clicking on our resources tab there to see what is available. But then if you would like to sort of dive a little bit deeper and do some of these workshop trainings, as I mentioned, you can register through the New South Wales government, or if you're outside of New South Wales, then you can just come straight through to the Black Dog Institute and contact us directly, and we can have a chat with you about what you're looking for, what challenges you might be facing. We have a team of people that are really skilled at listening and understanding what those unique challenges. So every business is different, and everyone's sort of looking for something a little bit different, but generally when it comes to mental health, a lot of it is applicable across the broad spectrum of businesses. So there's plenty available wherever.
Great. And so just what's the website address?
So that's blackdoginstitute.org.au.
.org.au. Fantastic. So we're going to put that in the notes, and we're also going to put some more contact details, particularly about the programs in New South Wales available. So check those out in the notes. And if you've got any questions, we'll also be putting the contact details there for Black Dog Institute. So get in touch. Don't make that a question that you don't ask. Reach out.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're obviously always encouraging people to support themselves, whether there's budget for it or not. We have something for everyone, and it's really important to have those conversations. So, we want to be our mission, the Black Dog Institute's mission is making a mentally friendlier world for everyone. So regardless of who you are, where you are, what work you work in, there's something there that we can do to help you.
Great. And Michael, just as we wrap this up, is there any key piece of advice that you want to give business owners that they must do to look after their team?
I would say don't be afraid to talk about mental health. If you're unsure about how to approach that, then as we've talked about today, we have our training programs that are available to help you, provide you with information and support on how to do that. But really, as a business owner, it's really important that you look after your team and yourself as well. So you check in with yourself, and you need to support it's really important to support yourself too. It can be really tough as a business owner doing it. You can feel quite isolated and on your own and feel like you have a whole lot of support and responsibilities and people to look after, but you need to look after yourself first before you can look after other people, and you owe it to yourself. I'm someone that struggled with mental illness for most of my life, and once I reached out for help and got support, my life improved dramatically, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. So I would highly encourage people to be open and to reach out.
And that's some great advice, Michael, and I'm hoping that more and more business owners will listen to that advice and act on it, because really it starts with a question and a decision, and then act on that. But
exactly.
Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of moving forward.
It's only good news once you reach out for help. I think it's setting you on the path for a better life, simply.
That's great, and that's what we're after. So we're in business to support ourselves and to create that life for us, and looking after people's mental well-being is a key to that as well. So, Michael, thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure and really valuable, and I'm hoping that more and more business owners will be checking out the resources of the Black Dog and getting involved in managing their teams and looking after their mental health.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. It's been great to have the opportunity to talk about this and to get the message out there and to let people to know about this. So, I've really enjoyed today. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michael.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Do you have a question you'd like our team of experts to answer? If you do, send your question to podcast@thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. To hear more from The Business Behind Your Business, don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcast player. Or you can visit the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website.